Tom woke up with a start. He spent a few minutes calming his breathing before he got up with shaky limbs. The world outside was dark, and the clock on his bedside table read 3:17 a.m. Not that he cared. There was only one thing on his mind. He padded softly into the room across from his, opening the door as quietly as he could and entering the room in the same fashion. The nightlight he bought filled the room with a reassuring glow, colored stars covering the walls and ceiling and illuminating everything. He slowly made his way to the bed where Millie was sleeping soundly, Tessa by her side, and put his hand in front of her open mouth, letting out a breath of relief when he felt the air hit his palm in even bursts. She was alive. She was breathing. She was safe. He made quick work of checking her entire room for any intruders. Under the bed, in the closet, the reading nook. The rational side of his brain tried to reason that an intruder couldn't possibly have bypassed the high-end security system that protected his house, but he ignored it in favor of checking the bathroom. He opened the door that connected to your bedroom, planning on repeating the same actions in your room, but stopped short when he saw that you were already awake and sitting on the couch near the floor-to-ceiling window, a cup in hand and an electrical boiler set on the small table.
Can't sleep?
You turned your head towards him upon hearing his voice, tea mug firmly held in your hands. He saw no smoke coming out of it, which led him to think you'd been nursing that cup for a while now. You shook your head and moved closer to the armrest, patting the now free area of the couch, an invitation for him to join you. He sat down on the couch and saw you take out the familiar white mug from your duffel bag, along with a ball-shaped tea infuser. You poured some water in the cup and opened a jar of what he assumed were tea leaves, soon handing him the warm concoction, which he accepted with a small thanks. You closed the jar and he noticed how it was made, minimalistic decor and the much neater handwriting spelling out the word vervain.
Now I see where Millie gets it from.
Jars are a must in every household, and I'll preach it till the day I die. He huffed out a laugh and turned his eyes towards the window, alternating between watching the stars and the way your face shined beautifully thanks to the candles resting all around the room. Blueberry candles, your favorite ones. Why are you still awake? His eyes made contact with yours, but he looked back out the window before responding.
I had a nightmare and just had to make sure my girls were okay.
There it is again. My girls. You probably didn't even notice he said it.
What about you?
What's got you up and drinking tea?
And why did you bring your tea maker stuff with you when we have perfectly good ones here?
He asked with a teasing smirk. Well, first of all, my tea supplies are my babies, and there's no way I'll ever leave them behind, even if you have some here. He rolled his eyes fondly, and you stuck your tongue out at him. And I guess I just couldn't fall asleep. I mean, I trust you and the security you have here, but not knowing who's trying to hurt us or why made me a tiny bit paranoid. It was then he remembered that between moving and movie night, you hadn't had a chance to talk, which meant you were still in the dark about everything. He sighed and took a sip of his tea.
The man after you is called Josh Brolin, but he's better known as Thanos.
You widened your eyes.
As you probably know, Thanos is the leader of the Infinity Mob, one of the most powerful mobs in London, second only to us. When he fled Wales to settle here, he sent his daughters Karen and Zoe to go undercover in our mob, try to earn our trust, destroy us from the inside so they can reach the top. Unfortunately for him, when they were undercover, they found the darker side of his business. Things they weren't aware of and we don't enroll in. Human trafficking, organ selling, giving away some of his men's wives as sex slaves to pay off his debts. It was harsh. So they confessed. Not that I didn't know already.
Wait, so you knew they were infiltrating your mob and didn't say anything?
Children should not be held accountable for their father's crimes. They didn't know any better. I wanted to give them a chance to do the right thing. So they confessed and started working for us. passing information that allowed us to free any incoming shipments of slaves, transporting the stolen organs to hospitals, sabotaging their plans. It all went great for a few months. They brought us info and gave him some fake ones so he didn't get suspicious. But he eventually found out and decided to do something about it. He gave the girls a fake lead, a shipment coming in, but no matter how small, we still went in, ready to stop it.
Oreo.
It was just me, the girls, and a few of my men, because most were dealing with something more important, or at least it seemed so at that time. Turns out it was a trap. We were surrounded. We tried to fight back, but their numbers were much too high. They killed my men one by one until there was only the 3 of us left. And then he killed his own daughters and threw white roses on their bodies. Said it was a representation of how I'd sullied them, that they were disgusting because of me. I wish he just killed me then and there, but instead he let me go. I'll let you walk away, and I'll stop trying to sabotage you. You will thrive like no one's ever thrived before. And then you'll find something, someone to love, someone to hold close, someone to cherish. And when that happens, I'll tear it all down. Your business, your life, everything you love will crumble under my hands, and you will watch as it all burns. Then I'll put you somewhere nice and comfortable. Make sure you live a long, long life, so you can be tortured for years to come, doomed to live with the pain of losing what mattered the most to you. I drove around for hours, leaving the city, running in circles, trying to clear my head while simultaneously making sure I wasn't being followed. When I was sure no one was on my tail, I went back home, took the longest shower in the history of showers, and changed. But nothing would make me stop spiraling. That was the night you first came to my house. He nodded and you got closer to him, resting your head on his shoulder. I'm sorry this happened to you. And them. He kissed your temple and pulled you closer to his body. Me too. You stayed like that for a while longer, basking in each other's warmth, looking at the sleeping horizon, until he noticed your eyes started to drop and sent you off to bed. You stopped him when he was leaving the room, though. Hey, Tom. Yeah? How come Millie got a whole personalized room and I didn't? Even in the darkness, you could see his blush. That answer is currently locked. Then I guess I'll have to keep playing so I can unlock it. He chuckled. Good night, Starlight. Sleep tight. You smiled at the nickname and turned so you could hide your blush in the pillow. Night, Tommy. When you woke up the next day, it was because of a very excited, very impatient Millie jumping on your bed. She dragged you out of bed, PJ still on, hair looking like it was attacked by rabid chickens, and sat you down in the kitchen so you were sitting next to her and Harrison. Tom on her other side, looking way too awake for someone that stayed up until 5 in the morning with her. Morning, sunshine. Harrison had a smug smile on his face, and you sent him a glare that could make the devil cower, before turning to your plate, now full of pancakes. You ate them in silence, eyes unfocused and on the verge of falling asleep until your attention was necessary. You okay with that, Starlight? Your wide eyes met his. Now, to be perfectly honest, you didn't hear a single word of what Tom was saying, but it was 8:30 in the morning and you were not up for handling any more of their teasing. Yeah, sure. And so, that's how you found yourself sitting in Tom's office on the chair across from his with a table in hand. Absolutely not! You already agreed to it.
Decisions don't count if I made them before 10 a.m.
They do in this household.
Well, your household sucks, and the answer's still no. He sighed heavily and pushed the table back into your hand.
Just do it, please.
I'm not going to just spend your money with no care in the world, Tom.
Darling, I'm a billionaire. There's not much you can buy that'll have me go broke if that's what you're worried about.
You put the table down and crossed your arms, determined not to let him win. But how can you win against him?
Fine. If you won't shop, then I'll shop for you.
Oh, but I don't know your measurements.
Not a problem. I'll just order one of each size. And I don't know what clothes you like. Well, I guess I'll just have to buy one of each as well.
Okay, fine. You win. You reluctantly took the tablet in your hand, still pouting like a petulant child, and started to add things to the cart.
Make sure you put some fancier clothes in too, just in case you need them.
You made to protest, but remembered his earlier words and decided against it, adding a navy blue dress to the cart instead. Tom looks quite pleased with himself, going back to answering emails and reading reports, while you reluctantly filled the cart and tried to ignore the prices adding up. Meanwhile, little Millie is having the time of her life. Harrison went back to working on the case at hand, a little on edge himself about you two being in danger. So the twins were on babysitting duty. Though admittedly, it was more of a fight to see who's the better uncle.
Hey Millie, come over here. I got some fresh cookies. I brought down some of your new paint so we can make beautiful painting for your room. Millie, look! I brought Tessa's toys, that way we can play with her!
The little girl was on cloud 9. And then it was time to make lunch, Sam's specialty. He cut out one of his older t-shirts, turning it into an apron for his little assistant, and making a mental note to buy her an actual apron if this was going to become a regular occurrence. Turns out, Millie was surprisingly good at following directions. Who would have guessed? Between stirring, dumping things into the pan, and setting the table, lunch was ready in a flash.
Oh, hey, Mum called.
Tom looked over at Harry, fork still in hand, and motioned for him to continue.
She said not to worry about lunch tomorrow because the new barbecue shop just opened downtown, and she already ordered for us, so we'll just have to swing by after church to pick it up.
Ah, that reminds him.
Oh, right, every Sunday morning we meet up with my parents at the little church nearby for Mass, and I was wondering if you girls wanted to come with us. I mean, I don't know if you even go or...
Hold on a second. You set your cutlery down and stared at him in disbelief.
You go to church? Yeah.
Regularly?
Every Sunday. I just said so.
You started to laugh while muttering things along the line of, "A mobster goes to church! Unbelievable!" But eventually nodded, brushing your daughter's hair out of her face so it didn't fall into the plate. We used to go all the time with my aunt, so I guess it would probably be nice to pick that habit up again. Millie nodded with sparkly eyes, probably remembering how the old ladies at the church always doted on her and offered her candy.
Oh, by the way, I'm gonna call Lou this afternoon and send one of my employees to cover your shifts for you. I don't like having you girls out of my sight, and it wouldn't hurt to have someone there who can protect him if things go sour.
You frowned a bit, but nodded nonetheless. I can't just stay home and not do anything, though. You're gonna have to give me something to do.
Okay, deal.
Harrison raised his brow at you.
You're not gonna fight him on this?
My daughter's safety is my top priority, and I'll do anything to ensure it. If that means staying on house arrest where I can have my eyes on her all the time, then so be it. You didn't notice Tom's smug smile or the satisfied smirk on Harrison's face, too busy trying to get Millie to eat her broccoli. That afternoon, the twins and Harrison left, leaving only the three of you in the house. Millie wanted to go to her room and draw, as she often did, so you let her. Tom showed you the library, which you absolutely marveled at, and you picked a couple of books from the numerous shelves to take back to your room, wanting to be somewhere close in case your daughter needed you. But it wasn't you that she needed. As soon as she finished her drawing, she went looking for Tom. He wasn't in his room, nor the kitchen. The living room and movie theater were empty too, so she just went up and down the stairs, opening random doors to see where he could be, until she ended up in front of a set of large black doors. She could hear Tom's voice on the other side, so she stood on her tippy toes and managed to open the door, entering the room. The action got Tom's attention, and he turned away from the floor-to-ceiling window, smiling at her and muttering something along the lines of,
"I have to go,"
on the phone.
"Hey, Angel."
She walked over to him, arms already up in the air for him to pick her up, as had become their usual routine. He sat down on his chair with her on his lap and turned his full attention to her.
"Look, Tommy, I drew us!"
She proudly presented her masterpiece, happy that he was listening to her speak and hanging on to her every word.
"That's Tessa playing with a ball that Uncle Harry throwed, and then that's Uncle Sam cooking, that's Uncle Haz doing sports so he could stay strong, and then that's you, me, and Mommy making a new jar because you don't have enough of those at home."
"When do you start calling them Uncle?"
She turned towards him and started playing with his hair, annoyed that it wasn't as fluffy as she's used to because of the gel.
"Well, Twin Naughty said if I called him Uncle Harry, we could take a bunch of pictures to put around the house with glittery picture clothes. And Twin Trixie said he'd teach me how to decorate cookies with glitter if I called him Uncle Sam."
He rolled his eyes at his brother's bribing.
"What about Haz?"
"He's the fun uncle, so I had to remind him of it."
He laughed and Millie gave up on his hair. It was too spiky for her liking.
"Hey, you want to do some shopping with me? We have to get you new clothes and shoes."
Her eyes lit up and she immediately said yes. He looked at the tags on her clothes along with the bottom of her shoes to get her size and brought out his tablet so they could start shopping. And that's how they spent the rest of the afternoon. Millie sitting on Tom's lap and pressing things she liked. Him buying all the colors when she couldn't choose if she wanted that skirt in blue, yellow, or pink. He even got a cute little dress for her to wear to church tomorrow that he knew for a fact was similar to the one you had bought that morning. He's never been more thankful for same-day delivery than when those clothes arrived an hour before dinner. Obviously, he helped you put it all away, sending the clothes you'd wear tomorrow to his housekeeper so she could have them clean and ready for the next day. You almost had a heart attack at the number of boxes that came for Millie, while he only stood there with a pleased smile on his face while watching the brunette jump around so her brand new shoes would light up. She bragged about it to her uncles, unsurprisingly, and after being sassed by a 5-year-old 'cause she had light-up shoes and he didn't, Harry brought out his LED sneakers and sassed her right back. That made her cry 'cause he had cooler shoes than her. So Harry immediately ordered 10 different kinds, all that also had glitter, so she would be happy again. Then she went right back to sassing him 'cause her shoes had lights and glitter, and his didn't.
"Tommy, can you read me a story?"
He looked up from the report he was reading to where Millie was standing, holding her teddy bear. You shot him an apologetic smile, but he ultimately decided that she was more important than any report, and if she wanted a bedtime story, then she was gonna get a bedtime story.
"Of course, Angel."
He then picked her up and took your hand almost unconsciously, having grown used to doing it even after only 2 days. The little girl set her head down on his shoulder, playing with the curls at the base of his neck and breathing in the soothing scent of his cologne that she's now used to. Once they got to her room, she gave him the book, and you tucked her in bed, while Tom sat on her side and started reading.
"I love our time together as we start each happy day."
You look over at him, his serene expression filling your heart with warmth.
"I love our bath time silliness, the way we splash and play."
That reminded you of the one night over a month ago, where he got to your house a bit earlier than usual, and Millie insisted he be there for bath time. That night ended with 3 very wet people, but you wouldn't change it for the world.
We'll climb the highest mountain tops. Hold on tight, and you won't fall.
You remembered how tight he held you and your daughter yesterday, how terrified he was at the thought of losing you, how he's taken the habit of holding your hand and carrying Millie as often as possible.
I love to share the magic of the shining skies above.
You looked up at the ceiling where the night light showcased a sea of stars because he remembered how much he liked to stargaze, and he wanted Millie to be able to do it every night.
And think of all the different ways that we can show our love.
You remembered his confession, how he can't say what he feels, but he can show it in the only way he knows how, spoiling you in every which way, even if that means having to stop work because Millie wanted him to read to her.
Like when we touch noses,
Like when he holds your hand,
playing chase,
carrying Millie on his shoulder so she feels tall,
or seeing friends.
taking you to his house so you can be safe and have plenty of people watching over you, including his family and closest friends.
Our love is always with us, and it never, ever ends.
You remembered looking forward to every Friday because you'd be able to see him. You remembered your daughter doing numerous drawings throughout the week so she could give them to him. Drawings that you've seen scattered in his office, always somewhere visible, but never where it would actively bother him. As if he'd made a Millie-shaped hole in his office and built the rest around it.
So snuggle safely in my arms. Our day is nearly done.
All those nights she fell asleep in his arms, 'cause she felt safe, 'cause he made her feel safe.
I love you to the moon and back, my precious little one.
Would it be so bad to give each other a chance?
I love you to the moon and back, Tommy.
I love you to the moon and back, Angel.
No, it wouldn't.
Night, Mommy.
You just had to take it slow so you wouldn't end up hurting the one who brought you together in the first place. Good night, Rosie. You stayed for a few more minutes, content to simply watch her breathe as your hand inevitably made its way into his until he walked you to your room. And you kissed him goodnight, going to bed and falling asleep soon after. Meanwhile, Tom went to his room and did a victory dance.
She kissed me in the corner of my mouth. That's progress!
And he went to sleep, work forgotten, only images of 2 girls with a matching set of eyes filling his mind.